Hello guys, so again my name is Emmanuel Hagai, and today I want just to go through the steps of installing the DFINITY Command-Line execution tool, commonly known as the DFX tool. So sometimes back I had a tutorial, a Google Meets meeting whereby I showed you practically how to do it, but sadly it wasn't recorded. So I got requests and I was asked to just go through the steps again and record it so that someone else can just follow through the steps that I did. And so here I am today, and I'm going just to follow the steps practically how I do it, and I will explain every single command how it goes. All right, so what we are going to do first of all, to install the DFINITY Command-Line execution tool, which is basically a tool used to create and deploy dApps on the Internet Computer Protocol blockchain, you will need something called a Linux terminal, and I'm currently on Windows. So if you're on Windows, the alternative you can do is install something called the Windows Subsystem for Linux, which basically allows you to run a Linux shell, a Linux kernel on your Windows computer, or alternatively, you can use the GitHub code spaces. And since in my WCL, which this is basically the Ubuntu, I've already installed all the dependencies. I'm going to create a new code space, and then I'm going to basically show you the process from scratch to finish. All right, so let's get started. So let's click on create code space. I'm just using this repository to create a code space. Right, so what we're going to do, let's create just a new folder which you can use. Let's give it a few seconds. So I don't want to use this existing project folder. I want to create a new one. All right, so let's see where we are. So let's just switch to the upper directory. So let's list the files again. So we are going to create a new folder and a new directory basically, and we'll use the command make directory, and we can call it DFX, let's say demo. And so we are going to use cd change directory to our newly created folder, and let's open VS Code there again. So let's give it a few seconds to open. All right, so let's give the terminal a few seconds to open. All right, so now that the terminal is open, the first thing that you'll always need to do in your Linux terminal, you need to update your packages. So we are going to write the first command that will update the package list and their versions, and then the next one is going to update the existing packages. So we'll use the command sudo apt update. And basically sudo is just saying we want this command to run in super user mode, and apt is the advanced package tool, and we are telling it to update. So after updating the package list and their versions, the computer will know which versions are outdated. So we need to write the next command to update the existing versions to the current one. So the next command will be sudo apt upgrade, and you're going to say yes, we want to install the updated packages, we want to update them. So we are going to give it a few seconds for the packages to be upgraded. After that, then we install the various dependencies. after the various dependencies, then we'll finally finish by installing the DFX tool, and we can deploy a simple project. All right, let's give it a few seconds. Right, so the next thing that we're going to do, I'll try to to move quicker, faster. So we are going to install something called the Clang tool, and basically it's a compiler for C, C++, and Objective-C. Yeah, it's just one of the dependencies, and we use sudo apt install Clang. Oh my goodness, hilarious, no blessings. Sudo apt install Clang. Yeah, then the next one that you're going to install is something called build essentials. Sudo apt install build essential. Alright, so after that you're going to install the next one called sudo apt install lib ssl-dev, and these are basically development files from for OpenSSL. Then last but not least, sudo apt install pkgconfig, and yeah, this is going to have some helper tools for installing some packages and libraries. So after that, we are going to install something called Rust, like not the Rust like the metal Rust, but Rustlang. It's a language, and we'll install Rust via something called the Rust app tool. So let's install Rust. So we are going to download it, and just a recap of everything that we are doing. All the commands that I'm writing are basically here. You see, everything is basically here. All right, so we are going to use curl, and curl is a tool for downloading file from the server, and basically we're going to specify that the protocol that it should use, it should only use HTTPS. Let's make this one single quotes, and you're going to specify it should use TLS version 1.2. After that, then you're going to tell it to run in silent mode, but to display an error if it fails. And then you're going to use the link HTTPS, the link to the Rust app tool, because curl is going to get it from a specific server. Where is that server? Now the address to that server, HTTPS rustapp.rs. Then after downloading it, we are basically adding the pipe symbol. We are telling it, after downloading the file using curl, pass it on to shell for execution. Again, this one is for let's say if you're running, let's say if you're running Ubuntu. If you're, let's say, on Mac, you'll need a different set of dependencies. And basically, let me just write, you'll use something called Xcode. You'll just write like Xcode -select. Don't do this on Ubuntu. This one's for people who are using Mac. Install. Just like that. That's the dependency that you'll need. But since I'm using Ubuntu, Xcode is not actually available on Ubuntu. And for people that are using on Windows, just one tip: you'll need to make sure that, let me just open my task manager. You'll need to make sure that virtualization is enabled. Like, I would suggest using installing basically something called WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux. And to install it, you will install it using the command WSL --install, and basically that will install a Linux kernel on your Windows machine. Like, as you can see here, I've installed. Let me just show you a demonstration before we continue. This Ubuntu here, this one, I'm running Ubuntu 2 on my Windows machine, and all you need to do is just that command WSL --install, and you can write Ubuntu commands, Linux commands basically. So another tip for Windows users before I proceed, you need to you need to enable some features. You need to click on turn Windows features on and off, and you need to make sure that Windows subsystem for Linux is checked, and some other features. Let me just show you this virtual machine platform, and basically this Windows subsystem for Linux. You need to make sure that this checkbox is ticked. After that, just click OK. All right, so let's continue. The next thing that you're going to do, okay, now we have installed Rust. We need to reload our shell to make sure that Rust has been installed. So we'll just exit the current shell, and then we are going to basically launch the shell again, the terminal, and we'll confirm that Rust has indeed been installed by checking if the Rust compiler is installed. And we'll just basically check the version, and we'll just say Rust C, Rust compiler -- version, and you see that Rust has indeed been installed. So the next thing that you're going to install is something called Node.js, the next dependencies. And we will install Node.js using something called the Node Version Manager, short for NVM. And so again, this NVM, we are going to download it from a website, a GitHub website, and basically install it. And so we'll download it from the server using curl again. And basically we are telling it to, let me just show you the command again. The command is here. Let me just explain it, and I'll just copy paste this to save time. So this is the curl command. Curl is a tool for getting things from the servers, and this all telling the output to output it to the standard output instead of a normal file. And we're telling it where you're getting the file. We're getting the file from this link here, this GitHub link. After getting the file, we are using the pipe symbol. Basically, we're telling it pipe it to where? To bash, and bash is just short for born again shell. So we are passing, after getting it from this server, this link, this address, we are passing it to bash for execution. So I'll just copy paste it to save time. Though I see it's telling me that NVM is already installed, but if you are running a newly installed version of Ubuntu or WSL, it won't be installed. You'll just basically use that command. I'll share you the link to this public repository so that you can also just copy paste. All right, so after that, you need to also to reload your terminal again. As you can see, close and reopen your terminal. So we are going to exit this one again, and then reopen it. And then we're just going to check if NVM is installed. Alright, it's installed. As you can see, the version 0.39 makes it installed. So we are going to use the NVM to install Node.js, and you can to install Node.js, we'll say, let's say NVM install and specify the version. But right now, I just want the latest one, so I'll just say install Node. But you can say NVM install 18. Let's just use Node, the latest one. So you can see the latest one right now is version 2.22.5.0. All right. Let me check if it's done installing. Yeah, and Node is installed successfully. So after installing Node using NVM, the next thing that you're going to do, we are going to install now the DFX tool, which is short for, again, just to reiterate again, DFINITY Command-Line Execution Toolkit, which is basically a tool for creating and deploying dApps on the Internet Computer Protocol blockchain. So to install the DFX tool, you have two options. This is the command that you're using. You can set the environmental variable here and say that we want to specify the version, or we can just use this command to say that we want to basically install the latest version. And for us, to save time, we are just going basically to ask it to install the latest one. We are not going to specify the environment variable to specify the version that you want to use. But in case you want, well, you have the information on how you can go about it. All right. Fantastic. Then I think we'll need to restart the shell, or basically you can run this command, but I'll just go the hard way again. and basically reload the terminal. Fantastic. Now we are going to check if DFX has been installed, and DFX -- version. Fantastic, and you'll see that DFX version 0.21.0 has been installed. So now that you've installed all the dependencies and you've basically installed the DFX version, the latest one, we are going to deploy a simple project and just to test it. So to deploy a simple project, we'll use the command DFX new and then specify the name of the project. You can call it during the last lesson someone suggested a project called Angokanayo, and for now I'm just going to use the first language, which is Motoko. This is a language that has been built specifically for building on the Internet Computer Protocol blockchain. So just click enter, and I'll just say vanilla JS, but whichever you want. All right, let's give it a few seconds. As you can see here, a new directory has been created called Angokanayo, and it's installing. Awesome. Now that it has installed, now we are going to switch to our project folder. Fantastic. Now that we've switched to our project folder, let me just show you. So here, when you first deploy a sample project, it will come installed with a very simple DApp. Let me just show you what it does, and then I'll explain it later. So let's deploy this one. So we can deploy it locally for now. We'll say DFX start. Yeah, I just like using clean. And since we want to use this same terminal, we'll tell it background. All right. But then make sure that you are in the project folder before running this command. All right, before running this next one, now we are going to deploy it. Basically DFX deploy. Since we are deploying it locally. Right, so let's give it a few seconds to finish deploying. Right, now that it's finished installing, we're going to click Control and click to see this is the default one, and basically you just say what's your name. You can select my name is Emmanuel, and say when you click me, basically says hello Emmanuel. And what is processing this request? What is processing basically this function? Yes, you can see this one, this greet function. This func is, I think in the last lesson I explained in detail about Motoko, but I'll just give a brief overview. This is a greet function. You use the func keyword to say that you are defining a function, and we are calling the function we are calling it greet, and you are telling the function that it's taking in a parameter, one parameter called name, and that parameter is going to be a text, and basically it's going to return a text again. Yeah, next going to say, and what is it going to return? Basically going to return the word hello, comma, and the word hello is concatenated. Concatenation is just a fancy term for saying joined in programming. So we are using the hash to join, and you are joining with what? This variable name, the parameter that we given here above. As you can see that, you see when you give the name and you submit it, it's returning hello, comma, and the name that you submitted it, the name that you gave it as a parameter. All right, so I'm just going to end that one there. Thank you for taking your time, and I hope that today you've learned something new. Thank you. And just one last thing to close, you just write DFX. DFX stop. All right, that's the end of today's lesson. Thank you.